I went from measuring grams to doing tons of cannabis. In Uruguay, I did 40,000 pounds, 20,000 kilos.
Wow.
So when I see these little scales and I see, it reminds me that it's never too late. It's never too little to start from. It's never too embarrassing to start something. And that's just a reminder every day. I have more to do, I have more to accomplish, and if in this short period of time I've done what I've done, I'm gonna get much bigger. I'm gonna do much more. But you can never forget where you come from.
Right there, it would have been a nice time for the drop. Right here.
We can do this here, watch me rock the flow. Killing it a must, never optional.
Spit guys at the crab table, still ain't signed to a rap label. DVD when I ain't have cable. I got balls, he ain't rap able. A 6D for me is mad fatal. Can't see me like a bad angle.
Absolutely, ain't going nowhere. We will be forever and ever and ever.
Peace, beautiful family. This is Dr. Walter Hidalgo, and this is the Know Thy Shelf podcast. The Know Thy Shelf podcast utilizes the metaphor of the shelf in order to extrapolate the self. And the way we do that is we invite guests to come in and share something about themselves. And before I introduce my guests, I just want to go through the agenda. Check out the website if you're looking for any workshops with youth and young adults. If you want to get a copy of my book, Beyond the Four Walls, The Rising Ministry and Spirituality of Hip Hop, I'm going to get you your copy, David. And if you're looking for any coaching, we do in-house coaching for youth, ages 4 to 16 years of age. Just go to the website, www.knowthyshelf.tv. The next thing we do is I always like to give a shout out to a group of individuals. And today I want to give a big shout out to all of my South Americans. Yeah, you're ready. I want to give a shout out to anybody that is cultivating, spreading the knowledge around this thing we call hemp, cannabis, because I think there's a lot of things that people don't know, have misconstrued, misinformation, and we're about to get schooled today. I also want to give a big shout out to all of my entrepreneurs, all my hustlers, man. Because today I got somebody with me that I respect, that I admire, and I swear for God, if I had a brother, I think this will be it, because we got so much in common. I got my brother here, David. What's good?
What's good, brother? You gave me goosebumps when you were talking.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I was like, you said entrepreneur, something rang in the back of my head.
That's what you are. That's what we are, yo.
Elite Method believes that all children have something unique to bring to the world.
There's no such thing as one size fits all when it comes to children. Elite Method focuses on building confidence, self-esteem, social skills, building the entire child from head to toe. Sports is just a conduit on how to bring the best out of every child out there. We try to focus on making children comfortable with the uncomfortable. Every single child, they are wired differently. Once you're able to connect to them, that's when the magic starts.
What they really need a lot of is one-on-one guidance and mentorship. Elite Method has a staff of 25 coaches that are the heart and soul of our business.
We take every single precautionary measure to make sure that the child and that the parent feels safe.
Coach Walter really takes time and energy with every single session he has with Jackson. Jackson leaves more confident, and he really feels on top of the world. I couldn't ask for a better coach for my kid.
Now that's a workout and a half for you.
There's nothing more important in this world than giving a child self-worth.
Every kid deserves to feel great in their own skin. We make sure that every kid sees the magic in themselves, and if they don't, we make sure we bring it out in them.
So, as I always like to do, I like to contextualize things, right? So, have you ever seen that movie, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures?
Yeah, I have. I didn't like the last one, though.
Oh, yeah, I know. It was a little corny. It was a little whack. That's true.
Yeah.
If we were to jump into that time machine and go back to a younger David, what do we see? What do we hear? Because you're originally from?
Uruguay.
Shout out to Uruguay, yo. Fun fact, Uruguay, First country to win the FIFA World Cup. Facts.
First one to legalize cannabis.
Facts. And we're about to talk about that too. See, you're jumping ahead of me too.
Number one.
That's facts. You're always number one. Talk to us about growing up in Uruguay.
I had a beautiful childhood. I grew up with my mom, my dad, my sister, my family. Very poor, very, very poor. But I always had what I needed. I went to private school, even though I was, poor in poverty. My parents always found a way to get me to a private school. I went there for free because of my grades and because the way I think. I was able to come out always top of the class. So I went to school for free, private school for free. But I came from a poor neighborhood and I went to school with the rich. So you can see how there's bullying and stuff like that. But I played soccer too, and I was like one of the best in the team. And I've always excelled at what I do. So regardless of where I come from, I never really care what people think or say. People have different. Everybody has all this clothing. I only had one pair of jeans, one pair of shoes. I always go with the same stuff, but it never really mattered. I had a beautiful, beautiful childhood growing up. Regardless of, we were poor, but I never saw us being poor. You know what I mean? And I know that we were really poor, but it was like there was always food on the table. I come from a really happy family. My dad wasn't an abuser or anything of that kind. He's a hard-working man. My mother was a stay-at-home. She worked for a little bit, but mostly she took care of us. She raised us. So, dude, I had a happy childhood.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's so important to hear that, especially amongst men. You know what I'm saying? Who the family is the foundation. We were just talking about your son. The importance of that. You know what I mean? We're living in a world where Black Lives Matter, a lot of racism, and things of that nature, but you experienced a different sort of situation, having not being able to fit in too much with the Latinos, so to speak, or even with the blacks. It was like you were like not black but not white, but you were in between. And it's interesting because I felt I experienced a similar situation growing up. Like I grew up with a lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and West Africans, so it's like I wasn't Puerto Rican or Dominican, I was Guatemalan. But then I loved hip hop, so I was embraced actually more from my black people. You know what I'm saying? So I experienced something different, having not immigrated from Guatemala, having stayed here. But it's interesting how family. You ended up kind of playing almost a patriarchal role of like, and still do. You know what I'm saying? How was it New Rochelle? I think people don't know about New Rochelle like that.
They don't. I think it's the diamond in the rough that now is coming to shine. $5 billion invested into New Rochelle in the past 2 years now. There's 30-something buildings going up. They're expecting about 100,000 people to move to New Rochelle. When I came here, there weren't this many buildings going up, but we're 15, 20 minutes away from the city.
Right.
On a train or even in car. If you leave at 5:30 in the morning from here, you'll be in the city in 20 minutes.
Facts.
Right. Or the city.
Right.
So you look at Pelham, for example, which is right next door. It's a small little town. It's not really city-like. There's no real business. It's not business oriented. It's more like, for the community. It's very small. And a certain amount of people live there. A certain type of people live there, right? You come to New Rochelle, it's a melting pot between the Jews, blacks, and Hispanics. It's like, and Italians, right? There was a lot of. If you go to the West End, it used to be all Italian. Now the majority is Mexican or at least Central American in that area. But New Rochelle, it's a melting pot, and there's business opportunity. There's a lot of people here. The high school is amazing. I don't know what it's like now, but when I went, people talk about fighting and all this stuff. There's always been fighting.
Yeah, right.
And what are men without fighting?
Right.
We're men. It's like we need to get that out, and we need to compete with each other. It's like it's sort of what iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
That's why I go to the gym and I fight other men, because it's like you get better at it and you get humbled. So nowadays everybody brings a fucking gun to the fight, and that isn't man-like.
Right. That's right.
That
a real man fights with.
We'll put it up.
Put it up. We don't even do that. Respectfully,
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But if now you talk your shit back and forth, they pull out a gun and shoot you. That's some coward stuff. That ain't man-like. That's some coward stuff. So that I think has happened here in New Rochelle once or twice. But other than that, and I'm not bashing any other parts of the New York, but it's not like other parts of New York. I'm not gonna say one in particular, but it's not like other parts of New York. I think it's a lot safer. cops here really, they do their job.
Good. Yeah.
I look at the reports of like unsolved cases and stuff in Rochelle, and they're pretty high up with resolving cases. They don't mess around. They get shit done. So it's pretty safe. It's up and coming. You see the buildings where you
right,
drive here.
Yeah,
it's
always.
Live. People are walking everywhere. We're at the store right now. You see how many people walk by here.
That's right.
And it used to not be like that. It's always been busy, but not like today. Today is like North Shores. It's a gem.
Yeah,
definitely a gem.
So, for some reason, in your travels, because you've done a significant amount. You're going from Uruguay, you have New York, but then there's Oregon.
Yeah.
Right. And I also like to talk about not just international migration, because you shared with us, having your family come to New York and experience the culture shock. But how was that internal migration for you, going from East Coast to West Coast? Because that's totally that's a different world too.
Hey, look, people in the West, I love y'all, but we know the truth. Y'all are really nice in person, but y'all shitty people. Yeah, we all know that. New Yorkers are mean, but we thorough. We come through. It's like New Yorkers are just. We're just mean in the outside, but we mean well. You know what I mean? Like, we'll curse at you for having a stroller in the middle of the staircase going to a subway, but we'll help you carry the stroller down or up. Well, we'll curse you at. We're cursing at you.
Same time, facts. Yeah.
Over there, it's like, you pop the tire, they drive by, they're like, damn, dude, that sucks, and they just keep driving. You know what I mean? Like, they're sympathetic, but at the same time, they ain't helping you.
Yeah.
That's West Coast, kind of, in the nutshell. Also, where I migrated to, where I went to live, the southern part of Oregon, which is completely different than the northern part of Oregon. The northern part of Oregon is a Democratic state,
right?
Run by Democrats, right? The 3/3 or 3/4 of the population about live in Portland or in the northern part area, which all the votes is controlled by that. But I live where the other fourth live, which is the southern part, the most Republican, Trump supporting area, I think, in all the United States. I mean, I live in a town called Rogue River, and they have a little plaza. Black Lives Matter were doing their rounds. They were doing protests city by city. Rogue River was the only place they came and they got kicked out.
Wow.
They literally they had a dinner or whatever, or lunch, the barbecue, and then the whole neighborhood showed up with like guns and
wow.
They get in front and then they protesting until they kicked them out. Now I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I'm just giving you a little bit of with a picture of
right.
where I live at.
That's right.
Now I'm white, skinned, right, but I'm Spanish. I have an accent, so I was accepted, and it's so funny how people are racist because they're ignorant and they're scared. That's the real reason. And it's funny how they'll make up excuses to accept you in their realm. I'll give you an example. I went to buy a gun. I love guns. I have plenty of guns back in Oregon, and I wanted a certain gun. So he said, what is your accent? He asked me. And I'm like, oh, I'm from Uruguay, from South America. And he looked at me like doubtful, and then he goes like, you sure? You're not Irish? Scottish? I'm like, yeah, my dad's Irish and Scottish, my mom's Italian. Oh, so you're white. Okay, I can get you the gun.
Wow.
And that's all he took for him to change from like, you ain't getting shit to, now I can sell you whatever you want. So it's his own ignorance. He's like, yeah, still, I mean, yeah, I'm white, but, I was born down there, Latino culture.
Right.
My son is half Colombian,
wow, okay.
But the ignorance and the fear, I think, and I don't know what their fears are, but I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But it's just a difficult place to be at.
You had it. It's a checkbox. Like, did you fill out these checkbox? Like, okay, this dude's kind of okay, he's all right, so we can kind of let him into this world, but you're kind of like still very conscious and aware of like, I am this, but I'm also this. And I'm very conscious of that and aware of it. I want to talk about not necessarily how we met, but it's interesting because we were talking about entrepreneurship, we were talking about business and all this other stuff. But the way I met you was in the working industry that you're tapping into, which is the hemp, the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
First of all, where are we?
At the New Grow Center in New Rochelle, New York.
Talk to us about that. Talk to us from its genesis and what brought you to where you are now in this amazing space.
It's a long journey, a long road, but you touched on it. I moved to Oregon, and I started in the medical cannabis program. That's how I started growing. I didn't make it in time to acquire a recreational license because they had a cap on licensing. So the only way to do it was if I get into a medical program, which I've explained in other webinars, how it works and so on. But I was able to grow there. Then I got my hemp license, which was an industrial hemp license. And through there, I was like, well, what do we do now? And I was like, well, I have to start doing research and development of products. And that's where these products came along, which is Matter CBD, which is my company, where we do production, research, and development of cannabis products. So I was doing this, then I ended up going to Uruguay, which is another, I went back to Uruguay to cultivate. I think you've seen my Instagram page on that. And while I was in Uruguay and have this going on, and I have Oregon going on, I got Uruguay going on, my good friend Alejandro, who's my business partner here, he's in the advisory board for the Office of Cannabis Management of New York State, hits me up and says, I haven't seen him in 5-6 years. And he goes like, yo, David, I love what you're doing. New York is about to go legal. Yeah, I heard about it. It's going to go legal. We should be in touch. And throughout the conversation, there was one thing that we had in common. He works in workforce development and education. I strongly believe that for you to be a successful entrepreneur, whatever product you're going to sell is through education.
Facts.
If you can't educate your customer, you're not going to make money.
That's right.
That is it's a fact. So we have that point in common. So we were like, well, how are we going to start working this out? Like, what are we going to do? So that's where the whole idea of it was going to be the New Grow Academy. But because the word academy is related to, like, the government doesn't allow you to use that word. So we weren't allowed to use the word academy.
Yeah.
So it became the New Grow Center, which is today a hub for cannabis, information, education, organic products for growing, but also for entrepreneurship. So if you wanted to join the cannabis industry, we have resources that we can share with whoever wants them. And we can guide you, point you where you want to go, whether you want to open up a business, whether you need a lawyer, whether you need education on how to do this or how to do that, X, Y, and Z. That's exactly what the idea was and what we've become.
What's the biggest misconception about cannabis?
Biggest misconception that it comes from the devil.
That devil must be green looking or something.
Hey, look, I hang out with him if that's the case, bro. He brings me a lot of peace, I'll tell you that. Yeah, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I've heard that a lot. Like we did an in-person. I wasn't there, but my team did an in-person thing with the mayor of Mount Vernon and the community of Mount Vernon, and it was a cannabis talk, a community cannabis talk. And I'm looking, they were live, and they're on Facebook Live, and I'm looking at the comments. This lady kept talking about the devil, and the devil this, and the devil that, and I didn't answer anything. I'm not going to get in a battle with somebody who doesn't know. You know, I educate them if they want to be educated.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that think that it's some evil thing that, is going to drown our youth, or, which I understand. You're 8 years old, 10 years old, you shouldn't be smoking.
Yeah.
You're 16 years old, you shouldn't be smoking. You should wait until your brain develops and then utilize it as a medicine for what's to come for you, But not I really don't agree with kids smoking weed or any drugs, any psychedelics.
Right.
Your brain should be developing on its own through your experiences at that young age. You're very tender, like that's everything that you put in there, it will forever haunt you, So, experiences you go through at 8, 9 years old, you still see them. And if you try weed, you're gonna be burning brain cells, because it does happen when you smoke weed. Your temporary short memory goes away, and that allows you to go into the tangents that you go in. That, you know, when you like daydream when you're high, that's because your short-term memory is not really activated there. You're just going. You're burning all the information that's coming, so you can continuously go forward. That's what the brain automatically does.
That's right.
So it enhances that.
That's right.
So you should do that once you develop your core of your brain. So then you can sort of, you know, mitigate what's going to come and what's going to stay.
So it's like we're moving in a generation now, right? Very digital. So that's changing the landscape. So this was almost like very prophetic, a prophecy, someone kind of looking into the future of what could be, right? Because the reality is that whether it's in the school, at a bar, at the church, we are up on our phones. Why? Because we are plugged into the matrix.
The workshop tonight was excellent. The kids were engaged, and Walter did a great job. He even had me and Donald answer questions. So can't wait for the next one.
The session was excellent. The kids were really engaged. They really understood and learned a lot about social media and what their impact could be. I'm looking forward to the next session.
So who are some, what drew you into this? I'm always curious. Was it a person? Was it an ad? I mean, what drew you into the
cannabis?
Yeah, the green industry now.
Man, there's so much to it. This is the reason why, to be honest. And I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think we spoke about this before. And I was getting hurt all the time. I had a.
I see where you're going. Speak on it.
I made my first rubs or topicals that I made were with butter. Though I was eating it, getting high with it, but I was using it for pain, and it worked. But it's not good. You can't go out with a stick of butter, and every time you get hurt, you put a stick of butter on you. It's just oily. It doesn't work. It runs off. So there's a few stories in between on why I ended up going to Oregon. But I got fed up with a lot of stuff. I fed up with the cap, the ceiling, the glass ceiling that we don't see, an opportunity. You know, we're all here, and we're trained to go to school and do this and do that and do that, and then you'll forever be a worker. Nobody trains you to be an entrepreneur. There's no entrepreneurship class in high school. There is a New Rochelle has one now. New Rochelle has one now.
Oh, that's what's up.
And the guy running it was my principal, Mr. Barbosa. Shout out to Mr. Barbosa.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Shout out.
He actually came to. I saw him at the New Rochelle Fair. I haven't seen him in like 15 years, and I had all these products out. It was funny. Anyway, the whole point was, I saw a glass ceiling here. And I also was experimenting with cannabis. At the time, I was doing things that weren't legal with cannabis, and I went from having a little bit to one day having a lot of it, and I didn't want it. It just happened that I had to store some stuff for somebody, and my girl at the time was like, "Yo, you're gonna go to jail. 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 You gotta get rid of this shit." So I called a few friends, and I got rid of everything within like a day or two. And I made so much money in one shot. And I'm like, damn, this shit is like real. Like, you know, I can make, you telling me I can make what I make in 3 months and 3 hours?
Facts, yeah.
And that, I was like, yeah, but I can't do it illegally like this. You know, there's a nice profit margin, but I can't do it. I can't go to jail. I'm not gonna be there for my son. And it all made sense to me. I'm like, well, I wanna make better products for myself, especially, because that's what I wanted to do. Maybe something in the future I'll be able to sell it. But I also saw an opportunity to be part of an industry that was up and coming, that it was being built. So I wasn't going to be part of the bottom adopters of the industry. I was going to become one of the pioneers. Though there has been forever pioneers in the weed industry. I wanted to do that in New York, but it wasn't going to happen unless I went to get educated on it.
Right.
So I have friends in Oregon. It's a long story about that too, how people didn't want me to go there because I got a business mentality. I'm not a worker. You can't hire me to be a worker. You hire me, I come and I'll find out your operations, and then I'll just go do it on my own.
That's right. That's right.
So there's a lot of people that didn't want me there, but I went there anyway. I went with my own money. My dad backed me up. My mother backed me up with the money as well. and everything. They back me up, taking care of my son, raising my son.
Yo, shout out to mom and dad, man. Like, that's beautiful, yo. Most people will resist that or critique it, but to get that family support, oh man, off the rip.
Well, that's why I love my mother and my father more than I love any of these women that sometimes I'm with.
I know.
They've been with me since day one, literally, and they've been supporting me since day one. I know a lot of people don't have that kind of family bonds and stuff, but I've been blessed with an amazing pair of parents and an amazing sister that have supported me throughout everything, bro. Everything. Even when I got locked up, all the times I've been locked up, they've been there to get me out.
Talk to us. We talked about the misconception, but what are maybe 2 or 3 things that are beneficial that comes from this plant called cannabis?
Okay, I'll break it down for you. Cannabinoids. Do we know what cannabinoids are?
Facts.
Cannabinoids are CBD, THC. They're called cannabinoids. There's about 100 and something cannabinoids that are already discovered. There's a lot more to discover. These cannabinoids play different parts. I'll give you 3 examples of 3 cannabinoids. When we're dealing with cancer, we like to work with something called the trilogy, which is THC, CBD, and CBG. CBG is antiseptic, so it's antibacterial. CBD is anti-inflammatory. And then THC makes cancer cells commit suicide. Right? So you talk about psychedelics. Imagine what it does to a cancer cell. So when you're working with cancer patients and you work with a ricin oil, you like to add maybe a little bit more CBG, a little bit more CBD, because the CBG will contain a tumor, CBD will reduce the inflammation, and THC will kill it.
And I think this is so important because obviously this is going against big pharma, who are constantly feeding people with these, pills, and then you become addicted to it. But this is a natural plant that, in my opinion, now that it's legal, we can speak a little bit more freely on it, right? We had probation, we had our cannabis probation, long periods.
Right.
We have people that are still trying to get out of the incarceration, like mix that they're in. But now there's this space where cannabis is becoming in the mainstream. But you still are experiencing some resistance in some regard. I mean, we talked about shake the hands, kiss the babies. You're really trying to talk to us about this process, especially for those that want to get in it.
I'm very good at expressing my points. So every time, and because of what I do, I put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to get it done. So when I speak, people listen to me, and they see that I'm not bullshitting. So every time I've encountered some sort of counter or resistance towards cannabis, I express the points, or the devil's lettuce, the thing that goes out of their mouth, and then I explain, just like I explained to you about cannabinoids, and it opens their brain, and then they're like, oh man, maybe I should do a little bit of research on this, and then I'll give them a product for themselves, and then they end up trying it. I mean, I smoke weed with my grandma. My grandma's 90-something years old, and
that's normal.
She was more receptive about it than my mom was. You know what I mean? But I think it's just a matter of how we explain it. Not really what we explain, because we know it works. The reality is there. It's just how we express the point. How do we bring it so they understand it?
Right. How do we make it digestible for the
and how you speak to people? Sometimes you're like using the words "why," for example. You're like, "Why do you think like that?" That you already put the person in defensive, because now they gotta explain why. Instead, you should say, Let me understand you a little bit.
Yeah, tell me more.
So if we change our language and we approach people like that, it'll be a much smoother transition to get everybody on board.
I want to switch gears slightly, because I'm glad you mentioned this, because that's another commonality that we have, and that is martial arts. And it was because of the injuries and the pain that you were dealing with martial arts that kind of drew you toward cannabis. And it's becoming kind of like part of this meta narrative of athletes. Shout out to all the podcasts, the sports ones that are actually bringing this to the forefront, that they're becoming a little bit more open to the fact that, hey, after this basketball game, professional football game, I had to get this cannabis in my system to deal with all these biophysiological pain and stuff that I'm dealing with. Yeah. Can you speak on that a little bit?
physical and psychological. You know, I know for myself, my own experience, using pharmaceuticals can drive you to the least desired road. You know, I ended up in the hospital for taking antidepressants and taking painkillers and stuff like that. They make you suicidal, and it's true. I ended up, I tried to kill myself, and I ended up in the hospital on the suicidal watch, and that's when I found jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu got me out of depression. But with jiu-jitsu came the injuries. And what I'm going to do, go back to painkillers? I was like, fuck no. So the natural remedy was to use something like cannabis. But I understand what it works for too, you know? Like people hit me up, oh, I got my sciatic nerve hurts, or I got a broken knee. I'm like, all right, sciatic nerve hurts because it's being pinched. Weed is not going to remove the bone from pinching your nerve. It'll reduce the inflammation, but it won't cure you. So we just have to be aware of what are the uses of it, where can we use it, and we can't lie about it. You know what I mean? People say, oh, cannabis is good for everything. It's good. It's good for certain things. Not for everything. It's not going to cure all cancers. It's not, you know, it'll help you deal with things. It'll help, you know, it soothes things, you know, and we should take it as such, you know?
Right. And I think with everything, right? Like in moderation, do the knowledge. You know, there's a certain extent that cannabis can do something, but the rest of it, you got to do your own, right? There's the rehabilitation period. There's getting different opinions from different doctors. I mean, people going the homeopathic route, the more like organic route.
But you can't go to any doctor and for him to tell you exactly how this is going to work, because we are today in the research and development part of the whole industry. We don't know how it's going to affect this many people. We have to do case studies and track people every day and their use, and we have to trust that these people are going to be honest with their answers.
That's right.
And that they're not trying to, you know, some way bring a bias towards the result of the clinical trial.
One thing that is also being thrown around here is the word organic.
Yeah.
Right? What's the difference between organic cannabis and non-organic?
I just did a whole thing. I did a presentation in the Bronx about this. I did a podcast not too long ago too, where I was asked the same question. You know, it's organic cannabis compared to non-organic cannabis. So, first of all, we got to determine what are the methods before we talk about anything else. Because in order for you to grow, let's say through hydroponics, you have to use a synthetic blend so that your feeding lines don't build up bacteria. You have to use synthetics. If you use organic feeding through your feeding lines, bacteria builds up, and then that kills your plant later on. So if we're going to do a hydroponic, it's not going to be organic. It's going to be through a synthetic formula. So then we have to get into soil, living soil. That's an organic, natural way. And I'm going to, and this is why I want to differentiate a synthetic process compared to a natural process. And I didn't use the word organic. Because what is organic? The plant. If I have a cannabis plant and I use synthetic feed, right? And what is synthetic? Synthetic is the process in which we bring the nutrients to the plant. If which process I use, the plant will still be organic. It's an organic material.
Right.
So what is organic is the cannabis itself. The definition of organic is anything living.
Right. Facts. Right.
But nutrients aren't living things. Nitrogen is not a living thing. I'll give you an example, same thing that I said over there. We have nutrients like nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen, right? They can all be found in the air.
And in a universe, like all
but you can find these in the air, right?
That's right.
But hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon, you can find these in the air, right? CO2. You can find them in the air. But nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, you find it in foods. Right, you find it in bananas. You find it in chicken manure, right? And they come from an organic source, correct? Then the chicken will have to be raised organic, and then you get the chicken manure, and that's your organic natural, right? Your organic nutrient. But what if through a scientific process, I'm able to take nitrogen from the air? Will that make the plant non-organic? If I didn't get it from chicken shit, but I got it from the air, a machine that gets it from there, so then that becomes a synthetic process. of where I got my nitrogen from. So that's what I mean. The way hydroponic works is they use salt mineral base product, and then they bind the nutrients to it. They bind nitrogen to it. They bind carbon to it. They bind calcium, magnesium, whatever, to the salts. Then the salts get dissolved, and you give it to the plant. So the process was synthetic, but where did the nitrogen come from? Where did the phosphorus come from? So you have to go deeper to find out where these nutrients come from and how they binded it together. You know, what was the process? So I like to think that the products we sell are natural, organic. You know,
Right,
this
yeah,
isn't a
that's
synthetic
right.
weed. Like K2 is a synthetic weed.
Right. Yeah.
It's not organic.
Right.
It's an incense. It's a chemically made thing.
Right.
But a synthetically grown cannabis plant is still organic because it's an organic plant. But the process was synthetic.
Right.
So
right.
I wanted to clear that out before, because people don't know that.
Right.
They really don't know that. They think, oh, organic is going this way. No, we do natural organic. We create something called living soil. We give the nutrients to the soil, and we add bacteria. Then bacteria will process the nutrients and give it to the plant in exchange for sugars. Then the plant will give sugars to the bacteria, and you create this ecosystem.
Right.
And where the plant gives the bacteria gives to the plant. Bacteria makes it readily available for the plant.
And it's interesting because now we're talking chemically and how the importance of bacteria is in the cultivation of any plant, right? It's like the negative and positive charge. I want to switch gears because in the Know That Shelf podcast, we ask guests to bring something that comes from their shelf, man. Dave, what you got for us, yo,
I got
today?
something for you. Look,
yo, is this what I think it is?
It's a scale.
You need one.
That's my baby scale. I have it with me. I carry it. I have it on my thing all the time. This is just, I look at that all the time, and I go back to where I started, how I went from little grams to jump to huge to, and my dad can testify to this, back in Oregon in 2020, I didn't have this at the wholesale, so I didn't have the scales. I was literally coming in my truck with a container in the back with a dolly or whatever, and we would go into this huge scale with the truck. We weigh it out, and that's how we did our numbers. So I went from measuring grams to doing tons of cannabis. In Uruguay, I did 40,000 pounds, 20,000 kilos.
Wow.
So when I see these little scales and I see, it reminds me that it's never too late. It's never too little to start from. It's never too embarrassing to start something. And that's just a reminder every day. I have more to do, I have more to accomplish, and if in the short period of time I've done what I've done, I'm gonna get much bigger. I'm gonna do much more. But you can never forget where you come from.
I love that because the next thing I wanted to ask you is, you got a son, I got a daughter, and you a lot of what you do is empower and you educate these young people, man. What's one piece of advice you would give to that young person that's trying to follow your path, David?
That's a tough one because I tell my son a lot of things. Stay focused. Believe in yourself more than anybody will ever believe in you.
Speak on
it. Distractions will veer you away from your end goal. You're allowed to distract yourself.
Yeah.
As long as you always find your way back. I wish I could be more profound, but I really don't have something like any. That's what I got.
Yeah.
For my kiddo, that's what I got. That's what I tell him all the time. I think that's it for the kiddos.
I think
simple.
I think that's important, and that's the way to do it. I want to kind of switch go left a little bit because I think one common denominator outside of the cannabis world is hip hop.
Yeah. Love hip hop.
How was hip hop introduced to you, David?
I think I just said the first song I ever heard in the United States
That's right.
was Juicy from Biggie.
Facts, that's right. Yeah, Biggie.
Well, and
rest in peace, Biggie.
You remember that beat from Juicy? It was like, oh man, that just stuck with me forever. I get goosebumps. That and then the way people utilize metaphors and the way they make things sound, and well, and with hip hop, it's obviously tied to cannabis and it's tied to a lifestyle.
I was gonna ask you, yeah.
And the underground hip hop clubs where when you're young, you're grinding on girls, or
right.
you're asking the neighbor to buy you a Hennessy bottle. You're like 17,
Right.
It takes me back to that, and there's so much content in a hip hop song, especially the older ones. Not these 4-minute videos with only 2 minutes of repetitive words. We're talking about the original hip hops where they could paint a picture on you. You know what I mean? I've lived my life through hip hop. Like that's like I listen to music. Like if you see my stories, I put hip hop songs that match my videos, and that's just the life that I live in. Like I live in that movie.
Right. And it's crazy because one of the biggest promoters of the product you have here is hip hop. You know what I mean? They go intersect with each other.
100%. Dude, everywhere you go and there's cannabis, it's hip hop. And everywhere you go for hip hop, there's cannabis.
Yeah, think about the cannabis cup. I'm sure you've been involved in that stuff.
Yeah. We did the organic cup. I think 420. I'll be in Brooklyn. I'll be a judge for a cannabis cup.
Dope.
The New York Cannabis Cup was before 420, so I'll be out there in Brooklyn. I can share details later.
Word. David, if people want to find you, reach you, get your services, your product, where can they find you, brother?
For CBD products, for cannabis education, for anything cannabis, they can get at us at the New Growth Center. Through Instagram is the easiest, fastest way to get to us. Every owner of the company has access to it, so somebody will read it and it'll be distributed accordingly. I think that's one good way to start. Anything international with cannabis related, Matter CBD or matter.cbd on Instagram. We're working on a project in Brazil right now.
Oh, that's what's up.
Actually, and we're just on the phone yesterday with the Office of Cannabis Management with one of their people there, and she's going to Sao Paulo, and my business partner Dan, who we own the company, is from Sao Paulo, and we have operations in Sao Paulo, and she had no idea, and so I think that the Office of Cannabis Management and through the New Growth Center and Matter CBD, we'll be doing something, a collab maybe in education in Brazil. So there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things they can keep up with.
Yo, David, Nori has his podcast called Drink Champs.
Yeah.
And he always says that shout out, you got to give flowers to people while they're still alive.
Yeah.
So I want to give you your flowers, my brother.
Appreciate
I want to give you your cannabis flowers while you're still here. You know what I'm saying? Because I see it. I see your hustle. I see your grind. I see you shining. And it's a beautiful thing because you're an inspiration for so many people, particularly where we're still dealing with mass incarceration of people dealing with petty crime, like having a little bit of bud on them. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully this will change that landscape so that we can create a different trajectory for our family and for the future. So I just wanted to say that to you. So as we always do with the Know That Show podcast is we end with a quote. And this one comes to us from Pablo Picasso. And it reads as such. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Peace, family.
My brother. Appreciate it.
Couple fiends around the way that'll kick you for a head. And homie bought a Porsche, but his license ain't legit. Dog, I'm with the shits. Dog, go get the grips. Called my mama on the phone, told her where I stashed the bricks. Clappers in the Rover. Splash your fashion over. They know me like I'm Hova. Ain't no witnesses, Jehovah. Don't knock up on my door looking for a handout. You try to be the popular kid, but it was me who stand out. I cut